Hi everyone, Helen Blunden here at Activate Learn on Twitter. It is time for another book review, and this time round I've read a book from a well-known Japanese author, but I've not read his previous books before, so this was all new to me and a very lovely introduction to his books. The book I'm going to review is Murakami's The Strange Library. I went to the library yesterday and I found this in the general fiction area, and it seemed really strange for me because as I was flicking through it, you could see that there are some illustrations in the book, and I thought to myself, that looks like a children's book. And it was really weird that this so-called children's novella was really sitting in with the adult fiction book. And so it piqued my curiosity, as a lot of books that have illustrations in them do. And also the fact that it was by Haruki Murakami, who I know is a prolific writer and a very well-known Japanese writer. I thought to myself, maybe I need to check out what he's written here. And I'm glad I did. Now, this book was published in Japan in 2005, called Fushigi na Toshokan. Hopefully I said that correctly. I don't know Japanese. But it was then republished into English in 2014 and illustrated as well by someone by the name of Kid. Now, the illustrations themselves don't go up against the storyline, and that's a bit weird, but on the other hand, it actually works. So what is this story about? It's classified as a children's novella. However, I'm not entirely sure that it is for children. A lot of the themes in here are pretty much relevant for adults, and given that it's quite a dark and sinister theme, I don't think that children will enjoy this. They might actually get frightened off and probably have nightmares for life, but not for life, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so The Strange Library, look how brilliant it is. Look at this. It's got, remember those when you go to the library and you'd have it stamped, and it's got the stamp. Look at this, the date of issue. I love it. It was brilliant. Okay, what is this book about? It's a book about a young boy who has this idea, that he has this question floating around in his mind about how did they used to collect taxes in the Ottoman Empire. Can you see how it's not really a question a young child would ask? So he had this question, and he said that his mother always said, if he's got a question, always go to the library and find the answer. So he goes to his local library and he asks this librarian that he wants to find a book about finding the answers on how taxes were collected during the Ottoman Empire. And then she sends him to someone else, room 107. And room 107 kind of seems a bit eerie. He has to go through a door and down a staircase, follow some kind of very dark, dim places to go and find room 107, where he comes across this old man who was quite a sinister old man. And basically this old man just tells him that he'd go off and find the books. The old man goes and finds the books, 3 large volumes, huge volumes, and he hands them over to the kid, and he basically says to the boy he has to stay in the library and read every single word and memorize the entire 3 volumes. And the poor child got frightened of this, and he couldn't say, you know, he wanted to go home. He was fearful that his mother was waiting for him, but he had this fear that if he spoke up, that he would get into trouble. And so what had happened was this old man led him through this labyrinth of a labyrinth in the library, and it was really scary. Took him down something like this. Have we seen this before? Yes, that's right. Louis Borges and all the type of reviews I've been doing about labyrinths of late. This is why I found it so fascinating. Takes him into a cell, basically locks him up, and, you know, says to him he's got to memorize the entire 3 volumes. Now, throughout, while the kid is in the cell crying and, you know, he opens up the volumes, but he somehow gets immersed into the story. And into this story, there is another character called the Sheep Man, a man who is dressed in kind of like Flocati sheep he was a half man, half sheep, who would make him donuts and would help him, make him feel good. He was a bit of a, I guess, I kept thinking of the straw man, the straw man in Wizard of Oz, kind of like that character. And throughout this book also, a young girl, very beautiful girl, a voiceless girl, would come in and actually feed him and provide young boy with so much to eat, such wonderful food that he was really sorry for it. Anyway, in the end, the sheep man and the voiceless girl and the boy strike up a plan to try and escape from the old man. The old man wanted the boy to memorize the book so he could suck up all his brains and eat his brains and, have all this knowledge inside him. But they break loose and they escape the labyrinth. Just at the last moment, they meet up with a man and things get a bit hairy. Look, the boy escapes in the end, and he happens to lose the sheep man, and he doesn't know where the voiceless young lady is, but he returns home to a mum who was waiting for him with dinner. But there's a little twist in the end. Not a twist. Well, let's just say, okay, there are spoilers. His mother dies, and in the end, this young boy doesn't have the sheep man who helped, doesn't have the voiceless man, doesn't have his books. He gets fearful of the library as well. And so can you see how this is really a bizarre story and not exactly a children's story? Now, as I read this was really beautiful. You got sucked into the story straight away. And the kind of themes that I would see here are, well, there's a few themes. There's obviously loneliness and grief that come out of the story. There's also the fact that the young boy kept saying things like he didn't want to be a pain. He didn't want to, say no. He had a hard time saying no. So that's kind of like maybe the fear of being able to step up and say your piece to others. There was kind of like a sense of loss as well. There's a big theme there. Another one for me is I kept thinking this is kind of like the Wizard of Oz. Kind of like the Wizard of Oz. There was the young girl, there was the brains, there was the dogs, the large dog, which I felt was akin to the witches of like Wizard of Oz. The young boy was young Dorothy, just trying to find and make sense of it all. So look, it was I'm not going to say it was a delightful book, but it's a book that I would read again, and I would think that I would get a different view on it every time I read it. I think this book is something that I would definitely have in my library. I wouldn't read it to my young nephew, but I would definitely pick it up at times where I just wanted to kind of feel as if that things are okay in the world, that I should stand up, and that there are going to be times where I feel a sense of loss or a sense of sadness, or that sometimes wanting to build more knowledge, capture more knowledge, learn more things can come at a cost. So that is it. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Have you read this book? Let me know what you think. Have you read any of his other books? And what books would you suggest that I start with his works? Okay then, thanks. Bye for now.